My wife wanted me to go to prison for a crime that never happened. I did not know that yet, not when this story starts. But I know it now, and it still makes my hands shake to think about it. Let me tell you the moment everything broke open. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was standing in my own basement with two police officers, staring at a locked door I did not even know existed. My wife, Monet, was 3 states away, laughing on the phone with a friend, acting like nothing was wrong. And behind that door was a room. An empty room, swept clean, no dust, no footprints, just a small speaker sitting on the floor, playing the sound of someone breathing, over and over, like a loop that never stopped. Next to it sat a cheap phone, the kind you buy with cash and throw away when you are done using it. I remember standing there thinking, whose room is this? Why is it hidden behind our furnace? And why does my chest feel like it is caving in? That was only the beginning. 11 days later, a detective would tell me about a storage unit. My name was on it. Inside were the clothes, the purse, and the shoes of a woman who had been reported missing. A woman I had never met. If you think you know the person you married after 15 years, wait until you hear what I found in that storage unit and what it meant for my life. Before we continue, let us know in the comment section where in the world you're tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. And if this story speaks to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. My name is Rashad. I am 42 years old, and before that Tuesday, I would have told you my life was simple and good. I worked as an accountant for a small trucking company in Ohio. I liked my job. It was quiet. Numbers do not lie to you. They do not have secrets. I liked that about them. Monet and I had been married for 15 years. We met in college, back when I was skinny and nervous, and she was the only girl who laughed at my jokes. She was smart, sharper than me in most ways, and she worked as a claims adjuster for an insurance company. She was good at her job too, really good. She could look at a stack of papers and find the one line that did not add up. I used to tell people, my wife could catch a lie from a mile away. I did not know back then how true that was, or how it would come back around on me. We did not have kids. We tried for a while, early on, but it did not happen, and after some hard years, we made peace with it. We built a life around each other instead. Sunday dinners, road trips in the fall to see the leaves change. She liked quiet evenings with a book, and I liked working on small projects around the house. We were not a flashy couple, we were steady, or so I thought. That week, Monet told me she was going to visit her old college friend, Diana, who lived 2 states over. Diana and Monet had been close since freshman year, and every so often Monet would take a long weekend to go see her. I never thought twice about it. I packed her bag with her, even joked that she was bringing too many shoes for a 4-day trip. She laughed and kissed my cheek, and told me to take care of the house while she was gone. The house had one problem that week. Our furnace was making a strange rattling sound every time it kicked on, like something loose was banging around inside the vents. It had been doing it for about a week, getting worse each day. Monet told me before she left, "Call somebody about that furnace, Rashad. I don't want you freezing in here while I'm gone." So the day after she left, I called a local heating company. They sent out a technician named Kevin, a friendly guy in his 30s, with a company polo shirt and a toolbox that looked like it had seen 1,000 basements. He shook my hand at the door, and I liked him right away. He had one of those calm, steady voices that make you trust a person without even trying. "Furnace trouble, huh?" he said, looking around our living room. "Let's go take a look." I led him down to the basement. It was nothing special, just concrete floors, some old boxes, a workbench my brother Zeke had helped me build years ago, and the furnace itself, tucked into the back corner behind a tall metal shelving unit that held paint cans and old holiday decorations. Kevin got to work right away. He was thorough, checking the filters, the belts, listening to the machine with his head tilted like a doctor listening to a heartbeat. I stood nearby, half watching, half checking emails on my phone. Nothing about that afternoon felt unusual. It felt like any other Tuesday. After about 20 minutes, Kevin asked me if he could move the shelving unit slightly, just to get a better look at the wall behind the furnace. He said sometimes vibration from a loose panel could travel through the wall and make a rattling sound that seemed to come from the furnace itself, even when the real problem was somewhere else. "Sure, go ahead," I told him. "Whatever you need." I remember going upstairs to grab us both a glass of water. I remember the sun was coming in through the kitchen window, warm and lazy, the kind of light that makes you feel like nothing bad could happen on a day like that. I was filling the second glass when my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text from Kevin. I picked it up, expecting him to ask about parts, or tell me the furnace needed a new belt, something simple like that. Instead, the message said something that made my stomach drop before I even understood why. "Sir, there's a lock." That was it. Just those 4 words. Cut off. Like he had started typing and then stopped. Like something had caught his attention mid-sentence. I stood there in my kitchen, water running over my hand from the glass I had forgotten to move, staring at those words on my screen. A lock on what? We did not have anything locked in that basement. There was nothing down there worth locking up. I set the glasses down and walked toward the basement stairs, my heart starting to beat a little faster with every step, though I could not have told you why. I called out, "Kevin, everything okay down there?" There was no answer. Only silence, and the sound of my own footsteps on the stairs, getting louder as I got closer to whatever it was he had found. My legs felt heavy on those basement stairs, like I was walking through water instead of air. When I reached the bottom, I saw Kevin standing very still next to the shelving unit, which he had pulled away from the wall. His flashlight was pointed at something low on the wall, and his face had gone pale. "Sir," he said, not looking away from the wall, "I think you need to see this." I walked over slowly. Behind where the shelving unit used to be, there was a door, a real door, built right into the wall, painted the same gray as the concrete around it, so it would blend in and disappear if you were not looking closely. And on that door was a heavy padlock, shiny and new, like it had been put there recently. "That's not supposed to be there," I said, mostly to myself. My voice sounded strange in my own ears, far away, like it belonged to someone else. "You didn't know about this?" Kevin asked. "No," I said. "I've lived in this house for 12 years. I built those shelves myself. There was never a door here." Kevin looked at me for a long moment, and I could see him trying to decide if I was telling the truth. I did not blame him. If I had walked into a stranger's basement and found a hidden locked door, I would have wondered too. "I think we should call somebody," Kevin said carefully. "This isn't really my place to open." He was right, of course. My hands were shaking as I dialed the police non-emergency line. I told them what we found, a locked door hidden behind a shelf in my basement, and the woman on the phone told me to stay put. Someone would be sent out. The wait felt like it lasted 100 years, though it was probably only 20 minutes. Kevin stayed with me the whole time. He did not have to. He could have finished his paperwork and left, but I think he could tell I did not want to be alone with that door. We stood in my kitchen instead of the basement, drinking the water I had poured earlier, not saying much. "You sure your wife never mentioned anything?" Kevin asked at one point. "Maybe an old storm shelter, something like that?" "We don't have a storm shelter," I said. "This house didn't come with one. I would know. I've done every renovation myself." Kevin nodded slowly, but did not say anything else. I could tell he was being kind, not pushing me, but I could also tell something in his mind had shifted. He was being careful with me now. The way you are careful around someone you are not sure about anymore. Two officers arrived, a young one named Whitman and an older one who did most of the talking. I led them down to the basement and showed them the door. Officer Whitman crouched down and looked at the padlock closely, then looked up at me. "This is a good lock," he said. "Commercial grade, not something from a hardware store bargain bin. Somebody wanted this door to stay shut." They asked me again if I knew what was behind it. I told them the truth, over and over, that I had no idea, that I had never seen this door before, that I did not even know it existed until 20 minutes ago. I could hear how strange it sounded, even to myself. A locked door in my own basement, and I knew nothing about it. The older officer decided they needed to get inside, given how well hidden and secured it was. Whitman went out to the car and came back with a heavy bolt cutter. It took him a few tries, sweat gathering on his forehead, but finally the lock snapped and fell to the concrete floor, with a sound that seemed too loud for such a small object. The door creaked open. I do not think I will ever forget what I saw in that room, even though there was almost nothing in it. The space was small, maybe the size of a walk-in closet, with concrete walls and a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, but it was clean, too clean. Not the kind of dusty, forgotten clean you would expect from a hidden room in an old house. This was scrubbed, swept, like someone had gone over every inch of it with bleach and a rag not long before. In the corner sat a small speaker, one of those portable Bluetooth kind you might use at a picnic. It was playing a sound on a loop, soft and steady. It took me a second to understand what I was hearing. Breathing. Someone's slow, steady breathing, playing over and over, filling that small empty room like a heartbeat that never stopped. Next to the speaker was a phone. Cheap, plastic, the kind you buy at a gas station with cash, no contract, no name attached. A burner phone. Nobody said anything for a moment. Even the officers, who I imagine had seen strange things before in their line of work, seemed unsettled by the eerie sound filling that small hidden space. "Sir," Officer Whitman said slowly, "we're going to need to take these items in as evidence, and I think we need to ask you some more questions." That was the beginning of the longest night of my life. They took the speaker and the phone. They took pictures of the room from every angle. They asked me question after question about the house, about Monet, about our finances, about anyone who might have had access to the basement. I answered everything as honestly as I could, but with every question, I felt the ground shifting a little more under my feet, like I was standing on ice that was starting to crack. Kevin left sometime during all of this, giving me a look on his way out that I understood completely. It was the look of someone who no longer knew what to think of me. I called Monet that night, my hands trembling as I dialed. She answered cheerfully, telling me about dinner she and Diana had just finished. Some new restaurant downtown with good pasta. I told her about the door, the room, the police. There was a pause on the line, just a beat too long before she responded. "That's so strange," she said, her voice smooth and calm. "I have no idea what that could be. Maybe it was here before we bought the house?" Something about the way she said it, so easy, so unbothered, made a small cold feeling settle into my chest. But I told myself I was imagining things. Grief and fear can make a person suspicious of everyone, even the people they love most. I pushed the feeling down and told her to enjoy her trip, that I would handle things here. 11 days later, Detective Kevin, no, a different man, Detective Ellis, called and asked me to come down to the station. He said they had found something during their investigation that they needed to discuss with me in person. Something about a storage unit registered under my name. I told him I did not own any storage unit. He told me the paperwork said otherwise, and that inside it, They had found personal belongings connected to a woman who had been reported missing 11 days earlier, the exact day my furnace started rattling. I sat in that police station chair, feeling like the whole world had turned upside down. Detective Ellis slid a folder across the table with photos from the storage unit. A purse, a pair of shoes, a jacket, all belonging to a woman named Cheryl Boyd, who had been reported missing 11 days earlier by her sister. The storage unit rental papers had my name on them, my signature at the bottom, dated almost 2 years ago. "I never signed this," I told him, my voice shaking. "I have never seen this woman in my life." Detective Ellis looked at me with tired eyes, the kind of eyes that had probably heard 1,000 people say those exact words before. "That's what everyone says, Rashad. But we have to follow where the evidence points." I went home that night and did not sleep at all. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in front of me, thinking back over every year of my marriage. Small things started coming back to me. Times Monet had asked me to sign papers quickly, saying they were for insurance or house repairs. Times she had handled the bills without me even glancing at them, telling me not to worry about the boring stuff. Times money had moved around in accounts I barely paid attention to, because I trusted her completely. I realized, sitting there in the dark, that my wife of 15 years might have been building something against me for a very long time. I could have confronted her right then. I could have called her screaming, demanding answers. But something in me, maybe the accountant part of my brain, told me that would be a mistake. If she really had planned all of this, she would already have an answer ready for every question I could ask. I needed proof, not a fight. So I did something that surprised even me. I called my brother, Zeke. Zeke had spent 20 years in the Army before retiring 2 years earlier. He was steady in a way I had always admired, the kind of person who did not panic, who thought 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. When I told him everything, the door, the room, the storage unit, he was quiet for a long moment. "Okay," he finally said. "First thing, don't let her know you suspect anything. Keep acting normal. We're going to need help." Zeke brought in an old friend of his named Rashad. No, wait, that is me. Zeke brought in an old Army friend who now worked as a private investigator, along with a woman I knew from church named a fraud investigator he trusted from his years handling logistics contracts. Between the 3 of them, they started quietly digging into everything: our finances, our old paperwork, anything that might explain what was happening to me. For the next several weeks, I lived 2 lives. In front of Monet, I was confused, worried, cooperative, exactly the husband she expected me to be. I even let her comfort me on the phone when she called from Diana's place, letting her think I believed every word she said. Inside, I felt sick every time I heard her voice, wondering how much of our marriage had ever been real. The fraud investigator found it first. Small transfers, going back almost 3 years, moving from our joint accounts into accounts I did not recognize. Some of that money had gone toward renting a storage unit. Some of it, we later learned, had gone to a woman named Cheryl Boyd. That was the biggest shock of all. Cheryl was not a stranger who had been kidnapped or harmed. Zeke's investigator friend tracked her down alive and well, living quietly in a small apartment 2 states away, using a slightly different last name. It turned out Monet had found her through an old work connection, a woman going through hard times, drowning in debt, desperate for money. Monet had offered her a deal. Disappear for a while. Let people report you missing. Stay quiet. And there would be a large payment waiting when it was all over. When the investigator gently explained why we were looking for her, Cheryl broke down crying. She said she had felt sick about it from the first week, but she needed the money too badly to back out. She agreed to tell the truth, on record, about what Monet had asked her to do. That was the proof we needed to show intent. But we needed more. We needed Monet's own words. Zeke came up with the plan. It felt wrong at first, the idea of tricking my own wife, but I reminded myself of that empty, swept clean room, that looping breathing sound, and the shoes of an innocent woman sitting in a storage unit with my name on it. This was not about revenge. It was about the truth. When Monet finally came home from her trip, I acted just like I had every day for weeks, worried, tired, leaning on her for comfort. One evening, I told her I could not sleep, that I needed to talk about everything that had happened. I asked her, gently, if there was anything at all she could think of that might help clear my name. I told her I was scared I might actually go to prison for something I did not do. I had a small recorder hidden nearby, something Zeke's investigator friend had helped set up, legal for use in our state since I was a party to the conversation myself. Monet was quiet for a long time that night. Then, thinking she was only comforting a frightened husband, thinking she had already won, she started to talk. She told me not to worry so much. She told me the police were not as smart as they thought they were. And slowly, piece by piece, trying to calm me down, she said things that no innocent person would ever say. She talked about Cheryl. She talked about the storage unit. She even laughed softly and said something about how clever the empty room had been, how much she had enjoyed picking out that speaker. I sat there across from her, my heart breaking and racing at the same time, and let her keep talking. The next morning, I drove straight to the police station with Zeke beside me. We handed everything to Detective Ellis, the recording, Cheryl's signed statement, and the financial trail the fraud investigator had put together. He listened to the recording twice, his face growing more serious each time. 3 days later, they arrested Monet. I will not pretend that day did not hurt. 15 years of marriage does not disappear without leaving a deep wound, even when the person turns out to be someone completely different from who you thought you married. But I also felt something else that day, something like relief, like finally being able to breathe fresh air after being trapped in a small locked room of my own. The case against me was dropped completely once the truth came out. Monet was charged with fraud, filing a false police report, and several other crimes connected to the scheme. During the trial, we learned she had been planning this for years, angry over money she felt she deserved from a family inheritance dispute, and had decided the easiest way to get everything was to make sure I disappeared behind bars instead. Kevin, the technician who had found that door, reached out to me after everything became public. He told me he was glad I turned out to be innocent, that something about my face that day had told him I was telling the truth, even when the evidence looked so bad. I thanked him. I meant it. Sometimes the kindness of a stranger, someone willing to give you the benefit of the doubt when the whole world seems to be turning against you, means more than they will ever know. I think about Cheryl too, sometimes. She made a terrible choice, but she was also a person in pain, taken advantage of by someone she trusted. When it was all over, I made sure the courts knew she had cooperated fully and told the truth once given the chance. She deserved a second chance, just like I deserved the chance to prove who I really was. I learned something hard through all of this. You can share a bed with someone for 15 years and still not know the truth of their heart. But I also learned that truth has a way of finding its way to the surface, especially when good people, a steady brother, an honest technician, a stranger willing to confess, choose to do the right thing instead of the easy thing. These days, my basement is quiet again. The furnace runs smooth. No more rattling. The hidden door is gone now, filled in with concrete, sealed shut for good. But every now and then, I still think about that text message that changed everything. "Sir, there's a lock." It turned out to be the sound of my old life ending, and somehow, also the beginning of learning what real trust and real kindness actually look like.